Hi, I'm Greeshma Kuthar, and you're listening to episode 2 of Mission Manipur, a frontline podcast that looks in detail at the Manipur conflict. This episode is titled Displaced. I hope most of you who are tuning in have listened to the first episode. If you haven't, you definitely should. Not just because I put in so much effort into scripting that episode, but also because it is like a primer to understand where northeastern India figures in BJP's plans. As you listen to this episode, you're probably aware that President's rule has now been imposed in Manipur. When I started planning Mission Manipur, I actually wasn't expecting this to happen. Not because it isn't the most logical choice that should have come within months of May 3rd of 2023, but because it was literally clear to me that the political will to address what is happening in Manipur was missing. Everybody was looking elsewhere but here, and when they did, it was just to score political brownie points. Nevertheless, as late as it did come, President's rule is now here. What went so wrong in Manipur that it has come to this? That is what I'm going to be addressing in this episode. I feel like as we center the opinions and the tirades of politicians, somewhere we've lost what the state has actually been through. Can healing from all of this really come if you're not attempting to center the depth of what people have lost? And no, I don't mean this in a way where I'm speaking to just the trauma of living through violence and having your home torn apart. What I do mean is, along with that, we also need to ask people who've been affected what they make of all that is happening. This episode is going to be divided into 3 parts. In the first part, I'm setting out to look for a school. Why am I looking for the school? Well, the headmistress of this school was the first person I met at a relief camp in Kangpopi back in May of 2023. She goes by the name of Hatlal Biak Waipai, short for Biak. If you look up my first podcast on Manipur, which is called Dispatches from Manipur, the very first episode will be my conversation with Biak. Biak had ensured that everybody from her school were rescued as their village came under attack. Her village is now in a buffer zone, which means it is between a hill district and a valley district. These are the areas where the Kukizo and Meitei have been fighting it out in what we can easily call a civil war. Almost all Kukizo villages in the vicinity of the school have been burned down, and all the people from these villages have fled, just like Biak. But when we met in 2023, I told Biak that I'll go looking for her school. I tried twice, but I failed both times. This is going to be my third time. In the second part of this episode, I'm going to take you all through my journey from Imphal Valley to the hill district of Churachandpur. This is because I really think it is important for all of you to understand what living under conflict means. Once we've done that, we will then be in conversation with Biak herself, where we understand not just what she has been through after the violence, but what she thinks about the most recent political developments.
Wherever my family is my home, but the school catered to everybody nearby. So thinking that the futures of all those students that I had overseen, that I had, looked after, to be gone just like that, it was heartbreaking. Yeah, and it still is.
Part 1: The Story of EM Standard High School. I'm heading to a village that I've been trying to access from the early days of the conflict. The reason I've been trying to get to this village is because there is a school in this village called EM Standard School. And one of the first few people I spoke to after I started reporting in Manipur is a teacher from the school, a teacher and the headmistress of that school. She fled from that village on the 4th of May because there was violence surrounding the village and people were approaching their village to kind of raise it down. So since then I have tried to access this village to see what is it that is left of the village and if the school is still standing. I've attempted to go there twice and both the times I couldn't go past the Meitei area. It is a buffer zone which is referred to as a security zone right now. So today I'm attempting again. Let's see whether I will be able to access the school. I'm traveling through Thaubal right now. Thaubal is a valley area which is predominantly Meitei, and towards one corner of Thaubal is also Lilong, which has the Meitei Muslims, the Pangals. A farther end of Thaubal is a dam, and across the dam, once I pass that dam, there is the village of Nongpok, Ketilmanbi. The village that I am trying to access is Kamutamdoi, which is a Waipai village. It's an abandoned village now. I mean, especially because of the resignation of the chief minister, things are a little volatile across Imphal. But let's see. The route to the school is through Yaripok and Chandrakong. Chandrakong is now a stronghold of the UNLF Pambai. Now, this is a faction of the UNLF that has signed a peace agreement with the Indian government. And there is a camp of the UNLF around here. Even the last time when I had come, I was told that they were setting up a camp here, but now I'm told that there is a proper camp. Just a little, I mean, I can't see the camp, and it's probably not on my way, but I'm told that there is a camp around the corner. But what is even more surprising for me is that the amount of sand mining and stone crushers that I can see on my way. Now, I have to go along this river to reach the Thaubal Dam. It's like a barrage. Pretty sure that when I had come here last time, it wasn't this much. It almost feels like I'm seeing these lorries loading up gravel or sand or a variant of sand almost every 2 minutes. And obviously, none of these are licensed. But this is a story for another day. But I actually can't believe my eyes when I say that, every hillock has marks of a JCB or a machine that seems to have scrapped off a part of it. This is just absolutely crazy what I'm seeing. So I finally had to take the assistance of the Central Forces to get to the village. And now I'm traveling with them, and we've already passed 2 units of the Arambai Tengol. I'm being told that the area is completely infested with armed militants from the Meitei groups, yet to reach Nongpok Ketilmanbi. The village that I'm traveling, that I want to see, is 100 meters from Nongpok Ketilmanbi. I'm being told that most of the village of Kamutamdoi has been destroyed. Let me get there and see if the school is still standing. Yeah. Break? Along I think that road and this triangle is what was the Waipai village, right? We entered the village from Nongpok Ketilmanbi, took a left, and we've come to the area which is like the far end of the village where there's seemed to be a Waipai settlement. Seemed to be because there's nothing left. ये भी स्कूल है, ये भी स्कूल बिना दिखाए, ठीक है, फोन करके बता। तो आप एक काम कीजिए ना, आगे जाके रोक लीजिए। सुन तू, इतने देर जब तक हम बाहर खड़े हैं ना, यूटर्न लेने का बहाना मार, हम आते हैं। एक सेकंड रोके, हम निकल जाते हैं। आगे से नहीं जाएंगे, वो वाला रूट पे चलेंगे, यूटर्न। So as far as I can see, all of the school is gone. The structure is demolished. On my left is one particular structure which has been like completely razed to the ground. So is it to my right. There are some like literally small bricks. The foundation remains, but most of it is gone. Up ahead also looks like it is the village of Kamutamdoi, which is also completely razed. So there's nothing left of the school. There's no board. There are no structures. There's no remnants that I see that kind of show that this is a school. It's a little unclear to tell which is what. But as far as I can see, the school is no longer standing. There's no school left. There are just bricks and remnants of what remained of this village and the school. Part 2, From the Valley to the Hills. To give you all a sense of how it is to travel between the valley and the hills, I am just going to take you through a usual trip of mine when I have to move from Imphal to Sisipur, which is Churachandpur. The violence itself started between these two districts. So as you approach Sisipur, there would be more checkpoints. But on the route itself, as we enter Bishnupur and get closer to Sisipur, there would be different CAPF officials, CAPF officers who are positioned along the route. Today, since it's my first trip from the time Manipur went under president's rule to a hill district, I'm noticing that there are more CAPF men along the route. There seem to be more barricades. Of course, I have not been stopped yet because the checkpoints where I have to submit my Aadhaar card, any kind of identification document, are at the periphery of Churachandpur. So when you move from a valley to the hill, which is from Bishnupur to Churachandpur, the checkpoints are higher here than the other periphery areas because this is where the violence started from. I will describe it as I get closer to Churachandpur. We start entering an area that is considered problematic when we reach the Pangal village of Kwakta. Kwakta is just before Torbung, which is where the violence started in the May of 2023. Kwakta is the village just before Torbung, which is where violence started in May of 2023. From Kwakta, as you move further towards Sisipur, is when the checkpoints start. One after the other, there are at least 4. I mean, the last time I went, there were 4. I don't know if they've increased now. At each checkpoint, you have to show them your identification. It can be an Aadhaar or anything else. The locals probably show their driving license or something. But outsiders are expected to show their Aadhaar card. And you have to state your purpose. Why are you entering Churachandpur? Journalists are put under more scrutiny. Usually, whenever I tell them I'm from the press, they would call their superiors and they would inform them that a journalist is passing by. That is the usual process of entering Churachandpur. The reason for these checkpoints are because in the initial months the violence was at an all-time high, and that necessitated these kind of checkpoints to ensure that people from either sides don't go to the other side. These days, I mean, it also is required considering the times that people from either side went to the other side. They either went missing or were killed. So what I've been told by people from Kwakta is that the village of Kwakta and this entire route to Churachandpur or back to Imphal used to be a very prominent route. People traveling from the valley to Churachandpur would stop by at restaurants and other shops in Kwakta to have a meal or, just to take a break. So the economy of Kwakta is pretty much dead because of the violence. And Kwakta, like I mentioned already, is a Meitei Muslim village. So Kwakta has also been badly hit because of the violence. And this also means that the affected communities are just not the ones who are going up against each other. Now, as I am moving from Kwakta to Churachandpur, I can see there are patrol vehicles, fully armed CAPF men are taking out patrols as I pass by. Like, I just saw one gypsy with 6 men from what looks like CRPF. And alongside, I mean, there are like playgrounds, there are multiple checkpoints that have come up right now with CRPF or BSF men or Assam Rifles or Army. It just depends on who has been deployed. So now that I'm entering So now that I'm entering the border of Churachandpur, I have already passed by 4 barricades. These were unmanned barricades, but they've just been put up in the initial days because of an apprehension that people from either sides, mobs from either sides, but more from the Meitei side. No mob from the Kukizo side has reached till here, but there have been instances where I'm on Tidim Road now, which is the highway connecting Imphal Valley to the hill district of Churachandpur. For me to pass from Bishnupur to Churachandpur, I'll have to cross multiple checkpoints. Each two of the checkpoints are controlled by the Bishnupur administration and the two by the Churachandpur administration. But now that it's president's rule, all of them have probably been streamlined, and will have different. Uh, will have different CAPF personnel or Assam Rifles personnel, but the number of checkpoints, as far as I can see, remain the same. I'm at the first checkpoint now, and what it says next to the checkpoint is Bishnupur Police. The difference this time is, in addition to being asked for my Aadhaar, I'm also asked for my ILP. An inner line permit is a document that you have to procure if you want to enter Manipur. So either at the airport or at the highways, you'll be stopped just as you're entering Manipur, and you'll be told to apply for an ILP, which will be granted to you after verifying your documents. So this time I've been told to produce my ILP as well. What the CRPF guys told me is that since it's president's role, they will be the authorities who will be enforcing ILP. Usually it's not their mandate, it's the mandate of the district authorities to check for it. But this time these guys have asked me for my ILP as well. I'm just passing the second checkpoint, and very interestingly, after the CRPF personnel realized that I'm from Tamil Nadu, he called over his colleague, who also is from Tamil Nadu. His name is Alphonse. He said he's from Marthandam, and Alphonse says that he's been here for the past 1 year. Most of the personnel here, I mean, I've been coming here from May of 2023. So every time I come here, there are different personnel posted. There are some of them, some of the seniors who remained for more than 6 to 8 months. But then mostly I have interacted with a different group of people every time. Most of these personnel stay along the Tidim Road, which is abandoned houses of Meiteis on one side and the Cookies on the other side, or like a mixed grouping. These properties have now been converted into barracks for these personnel, and that's where they stay. Their stay arrangements, as I can see from here, are bare minimum, like very basic. And the conditions for them, the conditions under which they are working is, as we can see, very, very difficult. But they don't have a choice as well. Now with the president's rule, it probably means that they are going to be stationed here for much longer. More like, the term is indefinitely. Anyway, now we've reached the third checkpoint, and there's one more checkpoint left. After the third checkpoint, there's one more checkpoint left. Right next to the fourth checkpoint that one has to clear if they want to enter Churachandpur is the Children Treasure School, Children Treasure High School, which is a school that wasn't burnt in the initial days of the violence, but started facing attacks in July and then was completely burned down in August of 2023. I had met some of the students who had studied here in relief camps in Bishnupur, and when the school was burned down, I also came here and I covered the story of the school. As I stand adjacent to the checkpoint, I can see ruins of the school. It's barely like 50 meters from where I'm standing. Of course, since this entire area is a high security area, we are not allowed to move beyond this highway. The story of this school is also as tragic as EM Standard School. The school used to be the school used to have students from both the communities. This had teachers from both the communities, and now students of the school The Meiteis are on the other side and the Cookies are on this side. The school wasn't initially burned down, like I mentioned already. It was under the protection of the Central Forces. But over a few weeks after July of 2023, people from the valley side came and completely burnt it down. So I came here the next day after the school was completely burned down. And I also spoke to the founder of the school, who was again heartbroken because he believed that someday he would come back and the school would be functional again. Now, if you were to look at the school from the highway, complete ruins and uh, all kinds of vegetation have grown over those ruins. So this is another school that has been lost to this violence. Now that I've crossed all 4 checkpoints and I've crossed Torbung, I'm getting closer to the Anglo Cookie War Memorial. Now, this is important. This is the place where everything started. I'm just briefly going to take you all through what happened back then in May of 2023. This is for those of you who don't know what is happening in Manipur, which according to me is really bad. It has been close to 2 years, so I mean, ideally, all of you should have read up about this by now. But anyway, on the 3rd of May in 2023, what happened is the All Tribal Students Union, they are also known as the ATSUM had announced that it would be organizing rallies across all hill districts. Why were they doing this? Because at that time, the Meiteis were organizing rallies demanding that they also get this scheduled tribe status. Now, they've been doing this for more than 10 years, but they started organizing more rallies after an order was passed by the Manipur High Court in March, which sort of it all. I mean, it urged the state government to consider granting. It was just it was a order which said that the state government should consider granting ST status to Meiteis. Now, this portion of that order has been rescinded after the Supreme Court sent it back to the Manipur High Court. So, this portion that actually led to this violence no longer remains as an official, or it no longer remains in that order. But at that time, the Meitei started organizing more rallies demanding ST status. Now, tribes that are already ST in Manipur, which are the Kuki-Zo tribes and the Naga tribes, they've been opposing this for various reasons right from the beginning. But the most important reason is what they say is a loss of equitable representation, which they say is already lacking in Manipur. So, anyway, on the 3rd of May, Atsum carried out its rallies across all 10 hill districts. Here in Churachandpur, close to 50,000 people had participated. And after the rally, when the protesters were returning from the rally, some of them saw that a part of this memorial where I'm at, the Anglo Cookie War Memorial, they said a part of it was set on fire. And with that, there was like an immediate escalation, because not far from this point, there was a counter mobilization of Meitei protesters who had been organized and mobilized by the Arambai Tengol and the Meitei Lipun. Both of these militias I have extensively written about, and they have a big role in escalating the violence in Manipur. So, what initially started as a clash between these two groups of the protesters from the rally and the counter Meitei protesters, it started off as a clash between them with stone pelting and abusing, but in no time it escalated to houses, cars, and businesses and whatever shops that are there in Kangwai and Torbung being burnt down. On the same day, it spread across Manipur. Within Churachandpur, there are Meitei colonies immediately came under attack. Within a matter of hours, came under attack by armed Kuki men. And at the same time, in Imphal Valley, the mobs, especially, I mean, Imphal is the capital, right? And Imphal, Meitei mobs that were led by the Arambai and the Meitei Lipun, they started raiding police armories, and they carried out lynchings. It was like massacre across tribal areas within the valley. They carried out massacres. Like within the first couple of weeks, close to 70 people were killed. And also they just went around setting every colony on fire. Not just houses in these colonies, but these mobs also burned down more than 300 churches in Imphal, and majority of these were actually Meitei Christian churches. Not just Kuki churches, but also Meitei Christians were targeted at the same time. And while all of this was happening, the government just stood by. It actually didn't do anything till much later. Only on the night of the 4th of May, by when multiple lynchings had already happened in Imphal, it was only after this night that the state government issued a shoot at sight order. And only after this order came through did the central forces, like, they officially stepped in after that. Before that, they were already trying to help people flee or trying to help get people to safety, but they could officially get into the picture only after this. The weeks after the first 2 weeks of May, you will see a repeat of this violence in Imphal over and over again. And also, it slowly started spreading to almost every periphery area between the buffer zones, basically, which are buffer zones now, but every periphery, like the border between every Meitei and Kukizo district. As this violence continued, one thing that we need to understand is from the day that the violence started, people from the hills, that is Meiteis from the hills, started fleeing to the valley, which they thought is safe for them. And Kukizo people from the capital, that is Imphal, and the valley started fleeing towards the hills. So by the end of May, a near total displacement of both the populations had happened. But over the next few months, more villages came under attack, and during such attacks, more people were displaced. Displacement continued to happen up until the recent violence in Jiribam. So, displacement has been a constant process throughout the violence. And even if you were to look at displacement as a result of your house or village being burned, that it cannot be actually seen just as that. A lot of people who kind of are in the periphery areas have also fled because they are anticipating an attack. There have been families that have left because of such reasons as well. So displacement is a constant process that continues to happen, like at least till the violence that was happened, at least uh, till November, where there was violence in Jiribam, displacement was still happening. So the violence just spread like that, and it went on for months. But basically, the starting point of all of this was the memorial right here, this Anglo-Kuki War Memorial. Anyway, I have moved ahead of the memorial now, and I was actually expecting to be stopped at two more checkpoints, which were, set up by local Kukizo organizations, the ITLF and other groups. But these were set up immediately after the violence, when people were fearing that, some Meitei hoods armed would enter the district. Police's role in the violence has been questioned, and they were seen as a compromised force. People came together to set up these checkpoints. So initially they were being used to check who's entering the district, but eventually they also became extortion points. Like, this is common knowledge. Anyway, like, both the checkpoints are gone. They're just gone. I wasn't stopped. Since I didn't see those two checkpoints, I found out the next day what had happened, and I was told that those checkpoints were actually removed by the Assam Rifles. And not just those checkpoints, any such checkpoints or any bunkers which are there along the borders are being dismantled one after the other. And this is the first effect of the president's rule. These are the bunkers where village volunteers would have stationed themselves during, the entirety of the last 21 months, fearing an attack or keeping watch if somebody approaches the village. Now, because of the president's rule, central forces have told them that they no longer have to do it. And while they are dismantling these checkpoints, bunkers, etc., more personnel are being deployed across the borders of the hill and the valley. So basically, what this means is that these men will now stand guard, and this is while everybody hopes that nothing untoward happens, and we enter another game of wait and watch. Part 3, Interview with Biak, teacher and headmistress of EM Standard School.
As far as this conversation is concerned, Tiak, I think we should start from the time that you left Manipur. What has your life been like since the time that you came out of the relief camp up until now? I think I'm really interested to understand this journey. Though I have been in touch with you and I'm aware, but I think you should kind of tell us what this journey has been like.
And now I'm Aizawl right now, which is Mizoram, another northeastern state. And how I got here is a long journey too. So after we talked that fateful day, I went to Delhi uh, to continue teaching in a different school because being in the camp, yeah, I was doing all those like part-time teaching to the students, or I mean to the children who were in the camp, but it felt unfulfilling. Yeah, I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more useful in a way. So I went to Delhi and took up this teaching for this online course of a school which was running in Manipur in Imphal. So they were continuing their schooling through online. So I went to join them, and I spent my whole 2023 there. And after that, after the school year ended for that year, I decided that I wanted to continue pursue my PhD, which was always my backup plan. So with family and decisions being made, I came back home, and that's how I got here in Mizoram last year. Yeah. Looking back now, I was restless mentally and emotionally. I didn't know what to think, didn't know what to do. We were like living day by day. And yeah, only now that I realized that, what was happening to me was a sense of restlessness. And I thought I wanted to do more, like I said earlier. So that's why I went away. And it was not necessarily like due to financial reasons as well, because by God's grace, my brother earns, and that's, I think it's enough for our family.
So where is your father? I mean, I've met your father. Where is your
Okay,
family right now?
yeah, they're in Kampopi, still
Okay.
there.
Okay, they're still
Yeah.
there. Right. Right. So
Mm,
now that we've understood where you are in life, I also
mm,
want to know, since like your story is somehow connected to EM Standard School. And when I
definitely.
first met you, the story of your school
Mm,
and also the story of how
mm,
you kind of fled with your students, that has remained with me.
mm,
And while I
mm.
came to meet you, you were also, and it had been what, just a month since you all had fled, but you were already like teaching
Yeah.
your students
Mm,
and trying to go through lessons with
mm.
your students. One of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
students I met later in KPI. I think I called you and I told you, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, you did.
Remember? Yeah. So,
Mm,
what is like just a small update about your students? Where are like at
okay.
least like are all of them spread across? Are they like have they been able to pursue their studies in different districts? What is it that they're up to?
Oh yeah, I mean they're everywhere, like in different districts. Some are stuck in Kampopi, some have gone to Churachandpur, and interestingly, some have gone to like to other states as well, like which is in a way, I mean, I shouldn't say funny, but because they are the kind of students who would never have had the opportunity to go to another state if not for this crisis. Yeah, so through financial help from many well wishers, they were able to go to those places. But anyhow, there are still people who are in Kampopi, and sadly there are some students who have given up their studies, like financial constraints is one thing, and they felt like continue, like especially the eight standards, the nine standards students, they didn't feel uh they felt mm, like to continue in another school at that point of uh their education, that stage, like where it's the teenage hormones are raging. They didn't want to make new friends, they couldn't make new friends, like this one particular student that I have a contact with. So he entirely gave up his studies. And yeah, and there was a lot of persuasion, trying to talk him into going to school again, like talking about his future. But yeah, the financial reason was also another thing. I mean, other than the social uh, outcast. Yeah.
Also, since I mentioned your school, a little bit
Mm.
about the history of your school. If we can go into why was it necessary to
Yeah.
build this school in Kamutemdo, your
Oh.
village, which is like, I mean, since I
Mm.
went there right now, I saw
Yeah.
how in a corner it is. It's like right.
Mm.
It's also not that accessible to get there. It's right in the
True.
foothills,
True.
and it's
True.
also not that accessible. So in that place, for you to start a school, I am
Mm.
sure like
Mm.
students in the surrounding villages would have really like felt like the school has a purpose, right? But what was the reason behind you
Oh
starting that
yeah.
school, and what was your and your family's vision in starting the school?
Oh yeah. So the school was started by my father and my uncle. And like you pointed it out, the region that where we live, there was no proper running school. Like, yeah, there were government schools, but we all know how government schools run in India. So it was a necessity at the time, and it still was. I mean, until it got burned down, and they established like way back in 1989. So it's over 30 years, and we've been running the school. It's, I think I've mentioned this in our first interview as well, but our school was, yes, it was a private school, but it was like charity, because um we focused more on getting students to come to school rather than them, whether they can pay the fees or not. At the end of the day, if they didn't come to that school, there were no other schools nearby where they could go. Uh, and it's like one of the longest running private schools, and it
In
it,
that
it
in
yeah, in that region, and it did much much more better than the government schools that were nearby, like just 1 or 2 kilometers, in that region away from our school. Yeah. So
and the school had students who were Naga, Kuki,
oh yeah,
Meitei, all of
everyone, yeah. I mean, the staff, the students, everybody was like family. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
How
So
has have
mm, as you
Go ahead.
saw when you
Mm,
went, the nearest village is a Meitei village. Yes.
yeah.
So yeah, they were like one of the largest beneficiaries of the school, because I saw it myself and my parents saw it too. That I mean, there's no comparison, but like the Meiteis of that village, like grew academically through our school. And this is not coming from me. This is coming, like, this was what the parents of the students of our the Meitei villages had told us when the school was running. So yeah, we could see like clear change in how they, started focusing on their children's education. Before that, they were all manual laborers, daily wage earners, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the only problem was that they encourage their like little kids, like teenagers as well, to go to do the wage earning thing and push back their education. Yeah. So bright,
That is something that
they
your school tries
yeah, they
changing.
were seeing bright futures through our school. God knows what
How
will
have
happen
you?
now. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how have you dealt? Because, like, till I went and saw the village and your school, that's
Mm.
when I realized the importance of that school. Because
Yes,
exactly
yes.
what you said, there are
Mm.
no schools in that vicinity which
Mm,
are,
mm, mm.
managed by, let's say, an
Yeah.
organization or like a
Mm-hmm.
like-minded individuals like you, your
Mm-hmm.
father. So I
Yes.
kind of understood the importance that you were talking about when I first
Yeah.
met you, right? How have
Mm-hmm.
you, at a personal level, because you were running that school, how have you
Yes.
dealt with not just the loss of your village or,
Mm.
your home, but also the
Mm.
loss of the school, all of it put together? How have you been able to, like, it's a very cliched question, but I feel like since it meant so much to you and I've kind of understood the importance of what what that means, just asking you this cliched question.
Oh, um, it always brings tears to my eyes when I talk about our school.
So sorry, Biak. I mean, you know how it is that
Um, I don't remember if I said this during our first interview. What uh when the fire started burning, he said, "I don't care about our village. Please, at least." There was one Meitei colleague of ours who was with us the morning that we had to flee, and we thought we could, uh, you know, do some kind of negotiation because it was one of the leaders who could uh, talk into talk some sense into the Rambai Tingles. And I requested him, could you at least spare the school? You could run the school, anybody could run the school. Could you at least spare the school? Because school is the only, it's something that could benefit the surrounding. And it it was not worth the hate to burn down the school because the school did nothing wrong. In fact, it was the one serving the whole vicinity. I mean, um, if you go up north, there were many more villages that the school had served, like uh, uh, where students from those areas also came. Yeah, so it provided a lot of, it provided future, it provided hope. Like it was the an essence of hope for many people, and thinking that all those would be taken away because of some like goons, who were thinking, who are not thinking anymore, who were just being relentless, chaotic masses, like who I don't know how to explain anymore. So, uh, yeah, I mean, there are no words. I cannot describe more than that. Like, it's very, very sad. It's very, like, the most heartbreaking thing. Like, I will say this again, and I mean it. It's more heartbreaking than losing my village, losing my house, because my family, wherever my family is my home. But the school catered to everybody nearby. So thinking that the futures of all those students that I had overseen, that I had, mm, looked after, to be gone just like that, it was heartbreaking. Yeah, and it still is, thinking about it.
is, I mean, for me, one of the most difficult parts of reporting from here has been going from village to village and seeing schools that are burnt down.
Yeah,
I've still not understood like how or why would burning down a school mean anything to
yeah,
Bob,
exactly.
of whether it is owned by A or B.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm still trying to deal with. I mean, I kind of knew when I went yesterday that
Mm,
I'm not going to see much because it's visible on the map, but I was still thinking
mm,
that, maybe
yeah,
it's one part of the structure is left. But to see
yeah.
it that way was like,
Mm,
I mean, it's nothing, it's just an inability to understand this, right? After
yeah.
all this time. But what is going on in my head is nothing compared to like what's
Mm,
going on in your head.
mm,
So having said that, yesterday I went to your school in the morning,
mm,
to your village to see the school, and then later in the evening, a notification comes that president's rule has been declared,
yeah.
right? Which a lot of
Yes.
people were like, wow. I mean, this is something that has been a demand from many from the Cookizo community from the beginning.
Yeah. Mm,
But
mm,
it was
mm.
for me like such a contradiction yesterday when
Yes.
when both of these things happened. But
Mm,
posing that same question to you, how does
mm,
this kind of an announcement after 22 months, what does it mean for you as an individual? Forget about everything else. As an individual,
mm.
does this create any sense of hope? Does this create anything which sort of, you know, deals with everything that, or answers to everything that you've gone through till now?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, like I just looked it up, the president's rule in Manipur, and funnily enough, Manipur is the only state that has had many presidents' rule being imposed, like 10 times, 11 times, I think, and it's very rather embarrassing also. But I don't know how it will play out this time because I looked it up, and then it for some years it went on for like 3 years, some like 94 days, and we don't know how long it will be this time. But uh, I I don't know. I think it's just, yeah, like you said, it's a contradiction because doesn't really help anybody to. I mean, whether it's the president's rule or the chief minister was still there. In my honest opinion, none of them were helping us. And I may have said this at like in our first interview as well. Like be the CM's recording, like the leaked recording where he admitted to like slaughtering all of us. That was my first question. At that time, we didn't know that he was like 100% involved like that. But like the first 2 3 days, our questions were, and especially mine was, why is the CM not saying anything? Why is he not putting up a notice, like trying to stop this violence? But like after 22 months, after many months, we have realized that it was his doing altogether. And that was the reason. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we wanted to remove him because he was the he was the the like
He's accountable for what has happened.
yeah, very, very, like for lack of better word, he was the mastermind. I would say was the mastermind of all this. And I do not know the political nuances of the intricacies of president's rule, but at least we are now being taken care of by the central government through the governor. And I hope like I hope for the best, in the sense that they would look into our matter as the most important matter, because this kind of ethnic conflict which involves the state government, the majority and the minority group. So I hope that they will look into this matter from a neutral perspective and see the best um, solution, the solution. Yeah, they would give us the best solution for us.
Okay.
I
Last
hope.
question, Riyak. Last
Yeah.
question. So, with the coming of the president's rule, there is this is seen as a shift in, something that has been like stagnant for such a long time, right? But over the last few months, and even before the violence started, there is a certain language that has been running in the state, right? Where
Oh.
different slur words have been used against
Mm.
Kukizo people. Like you come
Yeah,
from a
yeah.
community right now, which is one of the most affected tribes. The Whiteface are one of
Yes,
the most
yes,
affected
yes.
tribes. And you went outside of Manipur, you were in Delhi,
Yes,
you have
yes.
access to the internet, you would have seen the kind of
Yeah.
language that is being used to refer to your community. Do you feel like with the coming of the president's rule, this problem, like, randomly alleging that somebody is illegal, randomly like calling names, do you think that this issue of, like targeting a community ethnically and, using this kind of ethnic mislabeling, do you think something like that, this would be addressed? Or at least do you hope that this would be addressed? Because what is your experience with, being called such names in the country that you're from? Like, do you feel like one
Yes.
important part of this issue has to be that this is addressed?
I don't think the president's rule would help in shifting the mindset of like everyday individual, because they don't care. They don't follow the news. We are all bothered about celebrity news, entertainment news. What's the breaking news in terms of who is getting divorced or who is getting married. So I don't think they would give any scared as to what the president would do. Yeah, like the slur words, calling of names, that will still be there, sadly. And yeah, and this crisis has made us like uh I don't know, a person who is neither here nor there, because we don't we are now being called illegal immigrant from our own state, and there has always been the case of the whole northeastern people being outcast as Chinese. So wherever we go, we are always the outsider, and that has always been the case even before this Manipur crisis. But it has become like even worse because of the crisis, because our own state has kicked us out. So you can imagine what is going through our mind. We are here. Yeah, I'm here in Mizoram, but yeah, the people are here, very, very nice, very welcoming. But at the same time, like within our hearts, like we know for a fact that we don't belong here, because we were born and raised in our motherland, like Manipur. So uh, yeah, I hope that everything goes back to normal and we can go back to where we were. Yeah.
That should do, Viyak. I think that's good. That's good.